Alright, so I'm planning on demonstrating how to complete practical exam step 3A costing, because I've had a few questions about it and I want to make sure that we are prepared to be able to take care of this. So here we go. One of the first steps, we're going to need to utilize the template for this assignment. So above you have it, but you can also download it from the resources below. You have your cost assignment template, and then we're going to be utilizing the ingredient product guide and the ingredient purchase guide. You can open them from here, but the best way to utilize them is to actually download them. They've got a lot of information in them, and I'll explain why it's going to be better to download them. Once you get your cost card opened, this is usually where you're going to orient yourself. There's a lot of information that needs to go here. A lot of the pieces of information are going to be highlighted in red here. We're going to be creating this with the information we put into the actual cost card. So once you open up a cost card, CCO1 would be an example of one of the places you can place it. We're starting from Semifreddo Lemon Chamomile Parfait from week 4 of this term. I've already gone ahead and put all the ingredients in as they are specified in the formula. So you can see the metric, the grams, and then the ingredients themselves. So we're going to be using the product lists, the product guides. So once we have our product guides here, again, make sure that you download them. That's going to be the easiest way to utilize these, because you can search them from here alphabetically, but it's going to make a lot more sense if you actually open the physical file. And I'll show you why that is after we have these downloaded. So we've downloaded our product guide. We're going to be opening and utilizing it. I've gone ahead and changed the view, going to view and hit freeze panes. And I've frozen the top layer so that we're able to scroll through and still be able to see that top layer label, which is really useful for navigating through this. So we've gone and found lemon juice from our formula. So here you see there's a bunch of data on that line. We're going to go ahead and orient to the top so we can just be utilizing that information. So lemon juice, you can see the cost is $29.57, and we're going over and we're looking at kilograms at 11.712 here, because that's what's going to be easiest to convert to for this cost card. I've already done all the math for you, so it's not really, it's straightforward as part of density, kilograms, liters, all that good stuff. So if the purchase unit was 8 48-ounce containers, the US volume, you're ending up with 12 quarts, but the kilograms is what's going to matter. So we're going to copy the cost of this, $29.57, and the kilograms, copy those two, and we're going to hotkey guide is Control-C, and then we're going to paste it into our formula in the Excel spreadsheet. So we're at our lemon juice, we're going to right click, and we're going to press paste. So you can do this a few ways. Your information is here. It's nice and tidy in those two cells. We're good to go. We just need to put the unit in there at kilograms to make sure we're keeping everything tight and accurate. Make sure when you paste with values. If you paste outside of that, just with Control-V, it's going to change the formatting, which isn't a big deal, but as an aesthetic choice, press copy, right click, and paste as values, and that's going to give you the least amount of errors likely if you just paste those values, because sometimes there's conversions and calculations that get in the way. So make sure that you fill in your unit so we're keeping everything nice and tidy. Now, one thing to notice, that the unit here, the conversion unit and the invoice unit, they have to be the same. So if they're not, we have to convert from one to the other. So kilograms to grams, there's 1,000 grams in a kilogram. Now we have the appropriate number of grams in relationship to the number of kilograms in the formula. So you can see that conversion there. Now we have an appropriate number of grams for the price. If we have it still there, we're not buying 11.71 grams of product like we have for $29.57. We are dealing with kilograms here. So we have to convert based on what the recipe is using, and that's grams. So the cost needs to be done in relationship between those two ingredients. So there are 1,000 grams. That's going to give us less than a penny per gram for this formula. So make sure that when you're plugging that in, the cost is going to be applied to the recipe unit, and you will get extended total cost of 23 cents for lemon juice. So moving to the next ingredient, we're just going back and forth. I've just plugged the product guide into this spreadsheet, so I can go back and forth pretty quickly. So moving on down the list, I'm just searching for those ingredients, grabbing honey, the price, the kilograms, those two, and I'm just going to copy them back over into my formula here. Again, pasting with values, making sure that I keep the units correct. And I'm going to continue this on down the list, grabbing all of the ingredients from this file. It's pretty important that when you choose the ingredients, you're choosing the right one. You can see I'm choosing silver gelatin sheets because that's what we're using for the formula. Again, looking through, pasting as values. Make sure those units are right. So I'm going to continue this on down the list. Once I've gotten to the point where everything is in the formula that I have access to as a part of the product guides, you can see I'm missing chamomile tea and limoncello. We're going to have to look those up in another location. So everything else, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that it's converted properly from kilograms to grams. Again, 1,000 grams per kilogram. I want to copy this on down through all of these cells, and that's going to make all of the data end up $6.09 for what we have so far invested in this recipe. That's what our total is going to be there. So we're going to have to go ahead and search our best friend Google for these two ingredients to be able to put them into our final formula. So we're going to go over to Google. And in Google, we're going to find under shopping chamomile tea a few items that pop straight up. So we can look through a few different places. We can go to shopping via Google, or what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through Amazon. So we click that link there, and we're met with a bunch of options. So from here, we can go ahead and check through the list. I typically look at the count price or the price per ounce. That's usually your best indicator for price options. You can see that one's pretty cheap, $4.93. We're going to scroll down here, and it looks like Bigelow is going to be probably, yeah, you got a lot of options down here. Bigelow's tea is going to be probably one of our best price options. So we're going to take this one, we'll click through, and we're going to find some specific information for purchasing this. So we can see, we can go ahead and blow up the actual item itself, the photo, and we got 3.29 ounces and 93 grams for this product itself, 60 bags, all that good stuff. And our price is $11.48. So we're going to copy this, $11.48, and we have 93 grams. So we're going to move and place that into our spreadsheet for this. So paste, $11.48. We're buying 93 grams of chamomile tea. And since this is grams, we don't have to worry about the conversion because it's already like the recipe unit. So our $11.48, we end up with a cost of $12.35. However, when you purchase online, there's a difference between the kind of prices you're going to get in a big box store. So we're going to have to take that into consideration with how we are applying our price to this component. This is true of anything that we're going to have to go search for and have shipped to us. There's a hidden cost there. So in that, we're going to go ahead and we'll apply $4. And that's going to affect our cost. So we're going to add that in there. And that'll be $15.48 instead. That $4 shipping that we're going to sort of guesstimate is going to be factoring into our price. If you have membership to things like Amazon Prime, that's going to be negated, but generally the price is going to be influencing anything across the board. And you can see the difference there being a few cents per. I'm going to backtrack this real quick. You can see that price, $12.35, changes to $16.65. That's 4 more cents, basically. That's being added to each gram of your item because you are not going and buying it from the store, there's a trade-off there. So your extended total cost for what you're using in the formula changes from 186 all the way up to 250 with shipping. So that will change your cost depending on how you go about. So an accurate cost, you want to take into consideration the shipping price in your formula. That's going to influence your total cost pretty significantly. So we're going to go find limoncello. We've got a few options that come right to the top of the page. We're going to go through Google Shopping for this one. We've got a few options here. Limoncello cordials. We're going to look through. We've got a few options here. Low end, high end, even some solid pieces. That's strange. But we're looking for, we're just going to go with something mid-range. So we have down here $19.99, that looks solid. You have a 750 milliliter bottle. Given that limoncello is going to be approximately the same density as water, we can make the assumption that 750 milliliters is 750 grams as well. So we're going to use that information, $19.99, we'll copy that, and we're going to apply 750 grams of this to our cost card. So paste this in there, $19.99 for 750 grams, and we end up with a recipe cost of 29 grams of limoncello, getting us 78 cents of product. So one of the pricier ingredients in our list. So at this point we should have everything proper in the components, and we can delete all of these levels that we don't need, and that'll just automatically shore that up. Make that nice and tidy for our semi-freddo lemon chamomile parfait, which is going to have a total cost of $9.37 for all of these ingredients. Stretch with our total recipe cost being filled out at the bottom. So once you have completed basically every one of your others, it's going to come together from each of your cost cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many components that you have put together, and it's going to combine that total into the total plated dessert prep cost. So we're going to want to delete anything that's not useful in any of the other sheets. If you don't do that, then it's going to affect. See, this one was complete. We want to delete anything that is influencing information in any of the other. It should be a 0 in the bottom of all the rest of the sheets. So you want to go ahead and delete all of those so that nothing is showing the other ones. You can also delete the sheets themselves, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've already deleted everything data related from those, but basically you want to make sure that nothing else is showing. So it's showing just from that one page, 937, for our dessert prep cost from our lemon chamomile parfait. Everything else shouldn't have information in it. So with that information, our prep cost, dividing that by 10 will create your dessert plate cost. So 937 divided by 10 will get you roughly 94 cents per plate. Now, once you have that information, and that's already done for you, but that's how you do it. Once you have that information for all of the servings of lemon parfait that are going down on the plate, each 10 plates, 94 cents per. So with that information, now with everything else that we have going on, we're going to need to, once you've completed every one of your other cost cards, so we're just going to, once we've created these, we'll pretend that we're going to put some information in there to equal the ingredients, because that's a little bit low for a plate cost. That's just one ingredient, one element that's going down on the plate. So we're going to ballpark, because we need to create our price from this. So if we were just using that information, we're going to go ahead and put some, let's go ahead and do total $25 for the rest of the components that we're creating. So we're going to pretend 2 through 5 or 6, or how many pieces we're creating, have added that much price to it. So now our dessert plate cost is $3.44 because we've added those together. So with $3.44, let's pretend that we're going to need to run a 30% food cost. So $3.44 we're going to divide that by 0.30, because 0.30 being 30%, everything to the right of the decimal point being the percentage. 0.30, if you divide it by 0.30, you end up with 1146. So we're going to round that up to 1150. So if we're maintaining a 30% food cost, that's our goal, we should be charging 1150 for this dessert. Now that's of course relying on the fact that we don't actually pay ourselves. So if we're going to pay ourselves, we need to put in an hourly wage. So we're going to go for broke here and apply, let's say, $15 an hour. So that's going to put our labor for 5 hours being $75. So once we have that information, the labor plus the prep cost, all the cost of all of our ingredients, including the chamomile and the estimated $25 for the rest of all of our other components, we're going to add that together. So with that total, we're going to create the food and labor cost. And what that's going to do is that's going to tell us basically what it's costing us in raw materials, labor, and food to make this dessert. So if we divide that by 10, that is our cost per plate. So $10.94 basically. $10.94, which is a little bit pricey if we're looking at the big scheme of things. So if we divide that by 50%, and that's a 100% markup. So doubling that price. That means that 50% of this cost here, $21.87, we're going to round that up to $21.90, is the food and labor cost. So 50% of this total price is going to become the food and labor cost. So we're going to be charging $21.90 for this dessert, everything that's down there, the lemon chamomile, everything else, all the other components. $21.90 is what we're going to charge for this dessert based on our labor and our food cost. So both of those two are the major considerations in actually pricing things. So depending on what we are actually going to be able to charge for this, that's going to determine where we're going to be able to place a $21.90 dessert. So that's going to be a part of the next portion of the assignment that you're going to want to take into consideration. So once you have completed that, save it, and you're going to be submitting it to the practical exam step 3A. There should be a button up at the top edge there. Your view is a little bit different than mine, but you're going to be submitting that file, that Excel file, to this assignment here. Make sure you upload that before you work on the next step. The next step, step 3 from this, you're going to be sharing. You can click through into the discussion board. You're going to be sharing a reflection on this assignment itself. So you want to include what you found for your total dessert prep cost and your plate cost. So food cost and labor on that plate with those boxes that we solved earlier. We're going to look at the type of venue your dessert would be found in and what you would charge. Again, we figured that out with the 50% food and labor cost, and what your reasoning is for that type of venue and that price. Again, you can change the relationship of the food and labor cost to 60%, 70%, but that's going to cut into your profits. So depending on the venue, depending on the price, you're going to want to adjust the types of percentage you're going to apply it to. So we doubled our price of food and labor to have a 50% food and labor cost, but you can do it another way. And then number 3, the amount of time that we spent on this. Is it worth the menu price? If it's not, why isn't it? And why would we want to change it? How would we change it? And if it is, why wouldn't you change that? And then step 4, if you were to double the number of plates to 20, and therefore doubling the amount of ingredients you would need to set those 20 plates, but keeping them done, completing them in the same amount of time, 5 hours. So your labor cost stays static, but your plates and ingredients increase. So less time, less labor, what percent is your plate cost going to decrease? So taking that number of that labor, it's applied to the same, or applied to double the amount of work. You're doubling your output. So calculate that and compare to create that percentage. Then you're at number 5. What did you learn